Hello and welcome to my demonstration of Vue, my mid-tier prototype. So if we get started. So when you open up Vue, the first thing you come up against is the language selection. So obviously this being a language learning app, you're thrown straight into it with a wheel containing all the languages that you would be able to learn on the final app. I have to apologize for the slowness. My computer's running quite slowly with the recording software running. So you can see a selection of languages that you'd be able to learn. You can also drag and drop from here. And cycle through the languages. So if you wanted to select a language, you would just press on the flag and it spins down and you're introduced to the language. Now, this prototype obviously can't have every single language, so we're going to select Spanish.
Yo soy.
So here we're introduced to Spanish, the first bit of Spanish, and throughout the app, all written Spanish would be spoken in the final product. So this is a avatar selection screen. There's a diverse selection of avatars for the user to choose from, including ones that aren't human, in case they don't want to put themselves as any of these people. So for the purposes of this demonstration, we're going to select the doctor. Now, you can go back at this point, and it just takes you back to the language wheel for you to choose another language. But we'll continue through.
Yo soy.
And select the doctor. So you can change your mind at this point, and this will take you back again to the language wheel if you click the home button. However, as we've already seen that, we'll push on ahead.
Sí.
Now, you're going to hear all of the interaction from the app in the target language that you're trying to learn. So I thought this was quite important to feature into the design, as one of the key pieces of feedback from my user research, my primary research, was that learning a language in the language you are trying to learn was a better way of learning than translating from your native language. Be that through apps like this or through being in the country you're trying to learn, overall it was rated as a better experience by the participants in my interviews. So we're going to click
Hola.
to continue.
Empecemos.
So we're introduced to language from the very start. So this takes us to the level map. Now this is the first level.
El parque.
El parque. So it will teach you the place that you'll be in from the off, but also it will teach you the kind of things that you would expect to see in a park. Now, we do have two other options other than to continue here. We can select the menu, and this gives us some options for us to customize our profile. Now you'd be able to change your avatar in this screen and go on to change the languages that you wish to learn. You can access help. So this would have online user guides, which would help the user if they get lost. There's a contact option. Now this would allow the user to give feedback directly to the developers and help us produce a better product if they wish to get involved. And to ensure the app's completely transparent in data usage and things like that, they'll be able to access the full terms and conditions, and it'll be really easy for them to get an access to. Okay, and this would be an exit button to close the app, but we don't want to do that. So we're going to tap off here and we're back to the park. You can also go back and this will take you to the level map. Now, if you've unlocked more levels, you'd be able to traverse this, but you can get a sneak peek of what's ahead by zooming out. And so you can see the progression that the player will go through as they go on through the levels. And obviously this would continue on in a final product. And at any point, they can go straight back to where they are by pressing this button. They can also access the same menu from here or any point on this map. So to go back into the level, they just need to tap on the level.
El parque.
And they'll go to the park. So the app will start off with basic matching exercises where the word is given and the player has to tap on the corresponding person or object which corresponds with the word given. Now, they're given the chance
Hombre.
to hear the word so that there's always that vocal aspect to their learning. So we click on the man and it continues on. So again,
Mujer.
they can hear native pronunciation of the word, which is quite important when trying to learn another language, of course. Now you might notice that she's doing a little dance. If the user doesn't find out the object or person after a set amount of time, they will be given a little hint just to help them along. And that's demonstrated here. Now you can see an arrow here. If we click on that, there is more to the scene. And in a final product, these areas would be explorable with you having to search out more for the objects you're looking for. Now you can see here the arrow is doing a little animation, and that's just prompting you that mujer is not on the current screen. So you need to go back and click on mujer. Now, if you were to click on the wrong thing, so these birds, for example, you're given a cross much like the tick that comes up when you're right. All feedback would be given non-verbally, or if it is verbally, it will be given in the target language, so that there is complete immersion and you are never interacting with your native language.
Árbol.
So we can see from the hint that árbol is tree, without being told that it is the word tree. And it continues on identifying several objects every time when you get it wrong, giving a cross. Now you can see mujer is back. When repeating, the hint is given after a longer period of time to give the player or user more of an opportunity to test their knowledge. Each click, each test would be repeated several times to ensure cognition of the target word. And of course, as before,
Manzana.
every word is given to you audibly.
Completado.
So you're given an upbeat voice when you are correct and when you've completed the level.
El parque.
And again, repetition of the words to ensure that you've learnt it. So you can see here the player moves on to the next level and you gradually unlock levels as you progress.
Naturaleza.
So naturaleza would be focusing on nature and identifying common things that you might see in nature. Now, these would be localized so that you'd expect to see the things that you would see in nature in the target country that the language originates from. Now, as you can see, we can go back from this page. We can access the menu again, and this would be accessible at any point from these pages. And you can see we can again zoom out and view the wider map. Only this time, the park is now green, which means we can click on the park and we're taken there. We can repeat the park level at any point in the game, even when we are far beyond it, just so that we can practice the language. So
Naturaleza.
we're going to advance along a bit now. The player would complete several matching exercises like the one in the park. And this would basically build up their vocabulary, giving them several situations where they'll learn words that they'd come across often while in their target country. So as they progress, they move along the map, learning as they go. So here they would learn about the road and cars and identifying bikes, things like that. Here we have a cafe where they'd learn about drinks and cafe culture. Here we have the supermarket. They'd learn about food and the kind of things that they would see in the country shops. And then now we move on to La Casa.
La casa.
So here we'll learn a little bit about the home. Now, again, we can access our menus and we can access the map. You can see all of these are greened out now because the player will have completed them, and they'd be able to go back to any of these at any point that they wish. But we're not going to do that. We're going to go back to the player here. Now we can either do that by clicking on the plus, that'll take us back, or we can click on the player. And the same goes for any of the levels. And of course, this will just run through as these levels aren't a part of the prototype proper. So let's go to the how.
La casa.
So here we're introduced to some more advanced exercises. The player is given a sentence in the target language, and there's a little instruction on what they're supposed to do. So here they are given this sentence.
Pon la manzana en el bol.
And as you can see from the hand, that it's put the apple in the bowl. These kind of simple sentences will introduce the player to the kind of sentence structure common in the language. And they would be faced with several of these exercises to learn sentence structure and to build their vocabulary. Now you can see here, the instruction is this.
Abre la caja con la llave.
Now, if we try and click on the apple again, we get the cross to say that we're incorrect. So what we're going to do is we're going to abre, open, la caja, the box, con la llave, which is the key. So all of these words will have been introduced in the preceding levels, and now we're just putting them together in a sentence. So you can see this learning method follows on from how we would learn as a child, starting with identifying objects in the world around us, and then moving on to stringing those objects together in a sentence. And this would be gradually improved upon as the player progresses through the map.
Completado.
Of course, each level would be more complex and would grow in complexity as they continue, with plenty of repetition to learn everything about sentence structure and the vocabulary that they're covering.
La casa.
So as you can see, we've completed La Casa. We move on to the next level. So this concludes everything covered in the mid prototype. You would continue on the map, gradually getting more advanced as you go. Now the final prototype will have a small scene from one of these levels in the city, and it just gives you an idea of how the app might look in the final form. So that concludes the prototype presentation. Thank you for watching.